Good morning, all. Gord, you hurting hippie? Looking a little yellow today. I gotta fix the lighting in this area or move to a different spot. Soon, I hope the weather changes and that Porch Ponderings go back onto the porch. Nothing I like better than my morning coffee sitting on the porch, smelling the fresh air of the morning. What's today bring you? Well, our Newfoundlander cannabis guy, my dear friend G.D. Sutton, brings something of concern to everybody. I agree, Graham, I agree. It's of concern. It's just, I've seen so much of it. I've, I just am not as concerned. These are not rules and regulations that came out. Let me tell y'all, below you're going to see, I'll copy a link that Graham gave. Um, a research firm in Edmonton came out a couple of days ago with a new set of prescription guidelines for doctors about cannabis, saying that the research only really supports 4 or 5 different ailments and talks about pain, only pain. It's a really poor article. It's a really poor thing that's being done. It doesn't talk, because THC does more than pain. It does things with cellular growth when it comes to cancer. It quotes a real lack of research. So therefore, because of a lack of research, the amount of ailments that are currently being prescribed, which is a large plethora of things, there's no research to back it up. So their guidelines say shrink that down to a certain small subset, that there is some research. Let me first attack the research thing. That is a poor man's uh, uh, it's not a real argument. It's an ad hominem. It would not be allowed in a debate. And why? Research. Major research firms are in the United States. The money for research is in the United States. Currently, because of it being Schedule 1 in the US, no research is allowed unless under very specific conditions, and then you have to use US government weed, which is purposely grown poorly to disprove most research that would come out. So quoting a lack of research as a reason to do something no longer holds when you can't research it to prove it. When you say all there is out there is anecdotal evidence, there sure is, but there's a plethora of it because of the lack of research. So I agree with them. There's a lack of research. To say that it helps fibromyalgia, there's very little research, if any. To say that it helps, like CBD for, and CBC even better, for PTSD, very little research, and not on the list of treatable conditions that they're proposing. Uh, but it does. But it does. And we know that. So that's bringing me slowly to the next thought on this thought process is the current it, what they have proposed is a prescription guideline. I don't think it was adopted. I think they proposed it and now it's got to go to the College of Physicians and Surgeons and be adopted or something. That part, don't quote me. But even if it's been adopted, I looked up prescription guidelines for quite a few of the stuff that I was sick for, and they are not on there. I mean, for drugs that I used to take Topamax, propanolol, Wellbutrin, Cipralex. It goes on. Guidelines are only guidelines. Doctors have a lot more history with the patients, knowledge of what they're prescribing, usually, and familiarity with the diseases and the ailments that are being discussed. I don't see, even if adopted or when adopted or if it ever gets adopted, it changing any doctor out there. So let me bring you to the third thing. Sorry, first, I don't want to go over that too much. Let's make this a little longer one. The current doctors that are out there, such as my own, they sit and they talk with their patients all day long for, it's been years. We've had medical marijuana in Canada since the 80s. And some go by rules, some go by guidelines, some go by their own education and experience. Most of them are going by their own education and experience. If you're already in the medical program, already accepted, there is nothing in this that says kick them out. It's saying going forward, when prescribing, you should look at these guidelines. Most doctors in Canada that do not prescribe medical marijuana do not prescribe medical marijuana. Even if you say to them, I think for this ailment it should be medical marijuana, they say go see another doctor that's already licensed for this. Health Canada kind of just stepped on their foot there because they didn't allow every doctor to do it. Now, that doesn't mean that not every doctor will, and a lot of you aren't aware of this, but I know hundreds of people, and they're following me, and you don't have to out yourself, where your doctor has said, you know, I don't care about the guidelines. I'll write your prescription. It's working for you. My own doctor, who doesn't write prescriptions, has forwarded people to get prescriptions because of how this has helped me so much with my fibro. It's not helping me with my mood lately, but I'll get over that. I think that's winter. And that brings me into the third area of talk is we have a lot of opposition to cannabis right now from the pharmaceutical companies, from College of Physicians and Surgeons that are backed by the pharmaceuticals, by research firms, by liquor firms, by tobacco firms. They don't want this legalization to happen, and they want to shrink the use as much as possible, and they just don't get it. That isn't possible. It's going to happen. I do suggest any of you that are fearful, talk to your doctor, email them, say, is this going to affect us? I really doubt it's going to, and if it is, let me know that I'm wrong, and hey, we have to advocate against it. But in researching prescription guidelines, it says right at the bottom of the conclusion to the document that I will put below, states that this is only a guideline and meant as such for the doctor to make their own decision. The doctors that are already in there have already made their own decision. They probably won't even read the guideline. New doctors entering it will quickly talk to patients and find out that the guidelines are poorly written, and they'll ignore them. Of course, there's always those doctors that will follow a guideline by as if it were a law. Then you find a new doctor. That isn't always so simple, and I'm not putting light to this. I'm bringing light to it. Thank you, Graham, for bringing it to me so I could bring it to all of you. I may have a blog on MMJTHC soon where I write about stuff like this too. I just need some guidelines as to what I'm supposed to put in there. So, my friends, peace and cheers, love and harmony. Stay in touch with your doctor. Make sure they know that you appreciate them. I don't think you're going to have any difficulty, but if you do, let me know. I'm not sure I can do anything about it, but at least then I can say, oh, gee, I wasn't worried about that. That's all I need is one more thing to worry about. Shame on Health Canada for coming out with something like this. What the research firm should have said is there isn't enough research on this. Hire us, we'll research it. And that would take years. That is coming out. I honestly said to my son, not only would a couple of years worth of research prove marijuana's efficacy towards most of these ailments that we have and we currently get treated with it, because of advances in science and technology towards the use of cannabis. I'm positive that over the next 2 to 5 years, after it's legalized and research firms can really dig in, that they will find its efficacy to other ailments that we've never even thought of, and certain combinations tweaked and touched and scientifically bent may become cures for some of the things that we didn't think it would be. So I see it as a positive. It's because every advocate out there is going to point at it and say it's a guideline, it's not a rule. Let's remember that, and let's push that, and let's make sure our doctors know more. Peace and cheers, friends. Love and harmony.